In this video, we're going to talk about 5 real estate scams that you need to know about if you don't want to lose money. Especially in 2024, as a lot of things changing, a lot of people entering the market, beware of these. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝐅𝐨𝐥𝐿. I've been a real estate investor for 11 years now, flipped hundreds and hundreds of homes, fix and flips, rentals, short-term rentals, wholesales. And the purpose of this channel is to help you do more deals and make more money. Now, I got so many comments from my other video that I posted of buying rentals as a scam. Tons and tons of comments on it. And that made me think, man, I've been scammed before, and I want to share with you 5 scams to please be aware of. The first one that I see quite often is rental scams. Now, I had this property before in 𝐒𝐭𝐡𝐞𝐫 𝐕𝐢𝐝 area, which is a nice area here in Miami. And this was years ago, but I had this property, we purchased it, we renovated it, we put it back on the market. One day a realtor called me and said, hey, I went to show your property and the tenants didn't let me in. I said, tenants? The house is empty. Like, we just renovated it to sell it. She's like, no, there's definitely tenants there. I'm like, are you sure you're at the right property? She's like, yes, I'm at the right property. There's tenants here. So I quickly got in my car, went over there, and she was right. There was tenants there. And I knocked on the door, no one answered. So I said, okay, what do I do? I called the police. The police said, hey, look, luckily your house is in an area that for cases like this, you don't have to go through an eviction process. We can go with the sheriff team and kick them out. So we went with the sheriff team and kicked them out a couple days later. And once we got there, I had to speak to them and tell them, hey, this is my house. Unfortunately, I had to kick them out. And I felt so bad for them because the scam that they went through was they found the house for rent on Craigslist. Someone else had rented them my house. They pretended it was their house. They changed the key to their key with a locksmith. And this all happened within a few days. They ended up taking a security deposit from these people, first month rent, last month rent. They rented it very cheap and it was a huge scam. And these people lost all their money. That person changed their phone numbers, disappeared off the face of the earth. It was so unfortunate because I had to kick these innocent people out. They lost all their money. It was a really bad scenario. So I see this scam happening a lot now. And as times get tough, realtors get more desperate. People get desperate to make money. Be careful with this. And the advice I can give you, if you don't want this to happen to you, maybe you're looking for a rental, you have family or friend looking for a rental, always use a legitimate realtor to help you find that rent. Because if you try to just go online on Craigslist or OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace or whatever, be careful. There's a lot of people that pretend to be. There's no filter. So if you go through a real estate agent that can use the multiple listing service to find you that rental, it'll avoid this problem. The next one is a title scam or title fraud. Maybe you're already buying and selling properties. Maybe you bought your first house. Maybe you want to buy your first property this year or next year. Be aware of this, okay? This happened to me one time. It was a crazy scenario. I was wholesaling a house in Homestead, Florida, which is a little more rural area here, but I got this property under contract. We sold it to a buyer. I spoke to the seller. The seller even came to my office and everything to sign the paperwork. We closed on the house. We made like, I don't know, $19,000 or something. And then 2 months later, the real seller comes out of nowhere and calls the title company and says, hey, someone bought my house and I never signed anything. And the title company's like, what do you mean? Here's all the paperwork. And they're like, that's not me. I'm the real owner. Here's all my documents. Here's my social. Here's everything. It turns out this person, this seller, pretended to have the title of the house. He pretended to be the owner, made a fake ID and everything, and basically scammed me, the title company, the buyer, and it was a whole mess. Unfortunately, if you're in business long enough, this might happen to you. I really hope it doesn't. But if you flip 500, 700 deals like I have, and even if you probably do 100 deals, something like this will happen to you. Some things to look out for or some things that you can do to prevent this is work with a legitimate title company, work with a potential attorney. If you see something's fishy with the seller or something's not right, maybe have an attorney look into it. It's worth paying them like $200 an hour or $300 an hour to look into it, make sure everything looks good, because you don't want this to land on you in the end. So title fraud or title scams is a big deal. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. A lot of people pretend to be sellers. You just got to scope it out. There's one other little trick that we do when we're on the phone with the seller and something doesn't sound right. We do what's called the Cash App test. So what the Cash App test is, if you put their phone number on Cash App, it usually will tell you their name if they have a Cash App. So if the seller's name is John Doe and you're talking to a seller and they don't sound like John Doe or something sounds weird, we get the phone number and we put on Cash App, and sometimes they'll say like Sam or Johnny or Roger or whatever, and then we would see like, okay, this is probably fake. So that's a few ways to avoid title scams. Another big scam is foreclosure relief scams. So hopefully this never happens to you, but if you're ever in foreclosure or have a house in foreclosure, or if you hear about this, or maybe you have a family member in foreclosure and they're talking to you about it, there's a lot of people that will call them or even knock on their door and say they're going to get rid of their foreclosure. Really, the scam is a lot of times they say they're going to get rid of their foreclosure, but they really just get them to sign over the deed of the house to them. Even if they have a mortgage, they get them to sign the deed, and then these people will try to work something out. and the homeowner gets completely scammed out of everything. They get their credit reported, they lose their credit, they get no benefit out of it, maybe a couple bucks, but it's just a complete scam. And there was actually a movie about this called 99 Homes. Michael Shannon is an actor in there. You could see the story of him working for a firm that they want him to do this, and he's got like this conflict, and it really shows this whole scam that I'm talking about. So be very aware, and if you hear about any friends, family members going through this, just have them watch some videos about it, or at least be aware about it. This is a really, really bad scam. Be careful. Another scam that's really popular is investment scams, or probably pyramid scams or Ponzi schemes that go on in real estate. So there was actually a really recent one that happened in Miami that involved councilman, another lady that's on the board of Miami, and basically her husband was doing a fixing and flipping real estate scam, ended up being like a Ponzi scheme, and it's a big deal. This is not uncommon. This happens a lot. And basically what it is if you have some money to invest into real estate, but you don't have all the time and the money, you can invest with people who buy, fix, and sell real estate, and then you get a percentage, they get a percentage. But sometimes when you give your money to them, they don't use it for real estate, and they use it to do other things. Or maybe they use your money to pay somebody else, and they use somebody else's money to pay you, and there's really not much real estate going on. So be very, very aware if you're going to get into these real estate investing with people or funds. Now, I'm not like investment advice person, okay? So do your own due diligence. I'm just sharing some of the stories I've heard, and you guys can research, but this is a very, very common thing, unfortunately. So do your research when it comes to the person who you're investing with. You know, ask for references. You could ask for the assets that they're investing in. And the best way to do this is if you're going to invest with somebody, if you're going to lend money for purchasing a property or something, try to send the money to the title company. Try to get all the details of the property, that like see the paperwork, maybe have an attorney review everything. Like that, your money's safe and you don't get scammed. And the last one to be completely aware of is home improvement scams. Now, if you're buying your own personal home, or maybe you're buying a fix and flip or a rental property, you're probably gonna have to do some home improvements. When you do home improvements, that means hiring contractors, hiring subcontractors, hiring handyman, and be extremely aware. This is probably the most common scam I see on a day-to-day basis. It's very easy for someone from home improvement, a contractor, a handyman, to come walk the house, give you a quote, and then ask for a 50% deposit, or even ask for the whole job up front. Be very aware. Do not do this. A lot of people get scammed by that. They will get someone come in. They say, okay, to do this job will cost $20,000. And they say, okay, I need $10,000 to get started. You pay them $10,000 and you never hear from them again. This used to happen to me in my earlier years. It happened to me a couple of times. Unfortunately, I'm not happy about it. But now what I do is I only hire a contractor or a handyman if they're referred to me by somebody else. So now I've made a lot of friends in the industry. I'm in a lot of group chats, masterminds. So I'm able to ask people and say, hey, does anyone have people there? And then I'll use those people. If you don't have that luxury, another way to do that is you call realtors in the area, the best realtor in the area, right? The people on Zillow that you see have a lot of sales. Call them and ask them and say, hey, I'm happy to maybe have you as my realtor in the future. Do you have any handyman you'd refer to me? Because if a top realtor is not going to refer you a bad handyman, if you might give them business in the future. So that's another way to bypass that. Also using websites like Angie's List and Thumbtack. These websites screen the vendors a lot. So that's actually how I found one of my previous ones. We bought a house in Sebastian, Florida. I didn't have anybody there. So I went on Thumbtack and Angie's List and I DM'd a bunch of people. And then I started filtering them. And then I asked for references. I called the references. And that's how I found my contractor, which ended up well. So be aware of those scams with home improvement. It's very, very common. I've lost a lot of money and a lot of my friends have. I don't want you to do the same. So spend the extra hour, spend the extra 5 hours researching them, making sure it's the right fit, making sure there's referrals. Like that, all your money is safe and protected. Let me know in the comments if you've been scammed by this or if you've been close to being scammed. Hopefully you have not, but it happens. It's a cost of doing business. If you want to learn about any other scams or if there's any other scams you know about in real estate, please put it in the comments. I'll definitely look into it and make a video about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.